New Thought Media Network is excited to present Divine Science Everywhere, Fridays at 2 p.m. Mountain Time and 4 p.m. Eastern. Come explore a modern experience of divine science with Reverend Joy Fletcher, Reverend Jeff Radcliffe, and Bishop Durrell Watkins. Join us as we open our eyes to divine science everywhere we look. Fridays on New Thought Media Network.
Well, welcome back. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest today, Reverend Dr. Martha Creek. Widely known in New Thought, Martha's trainings approach deep inner work as an adventure with a sense of curiosity and wonder. A master of the art of right questioning, she calls forth the most stubborn and self-defeating patterns to create a new way of being, literally. Ordained in religious science and divine science, Martha has served as the Great Lakes Unity Consultant and served several years at Unity Worldwide Institute on the faculty. She has attended Emerson Theological Seminary, master's and doctorate, Byron Katie School for the Work, and Hoffman Institute. She is a healthy congregations facilitator and training. And a little birdie told me that she is soon to receive an award from the Unity Worldwide Ministries. So we introduce to you Martha Creek.
Hello there. Hi, everybody. It's interesting to hear that litany of journey that I've taken. And as I look at all of you as we came on to start the show today, I thought we've probably been around for about the same amount of time. And I keep hearing myself like, I've been at this for 25 years. I've been at this for 25 years. And I also think we're just getting started. So I deep bow to you, all of you that are here. And this morning I started the day with reminding a minister that she's one of the only ministers I know that represents leaders who last in the field that she's in. So I believe that we're here together as leaders who last. And I think it's critical in our time right now to make sure that we last as leaders, that we keep ourselves going and to keep these principles dusted off and cared for and uplifted. And it's in their next greatest iteration of what they're going to be too. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
I was really, really excited when we got the email confirming that you were going to be here because you're one of my favorite people. And you know everybody. So I can't imagine that there is not one person out there who has not gotten a chance to experience a Martha Creek hug because they're awesome.
Thank you, Jeff. That's part of my mission. And I don't take that for granted. Like when people say that, I used to ask them, when I was serving in the church there at Unity of Louisville, people would wait in line and wait in line and wait in line. And I'm like, what are you waiting in line for? I'm accessible. You can come to my office. You can come to my house. And they're like, I'm standing in line to get a hug from you. Are you kidding? I'm not going to leave here without getting a hug. So there's medicine and ways seen and unseen. And I'm really glad, Jeff, that was your experience of my hug. And I'm good for one anytime you can reach me.
Nice. So, if I may, divine science teaches that we come forth through the law of expression. So, how do you see that law work in people's healing journey?
Is the question to me?
Yes.
Well, I like to hear y'all's answer to it too. Well, I believe that healing is a direction that we go in, not a thing itself. And I think that it's conceptual, what is healing, and that it doesn't mean that we're going to be disease-free necessarily, and that healing is possible, and that we are absolutely inclined and set for and assured that we can experience healing regardless of what the medical profession calls healing or what the culture around us may call healing, that it is not to be defined. So it's a word for me, just like God or life or divine intelligence or anything else. It's purely conceptual, and it is to be experienced, not understood.
I love that.
I
And
like that. Yeah.
I do. I do. It's not about the manifestation. It's about the process. It sounds like the process, the becoming, or recognizing.
Well, and how we're going to relate to what's happening. Like there's plenty of people with diseases that are far better shape than some of us that don't have a known disease or any diagnosis. So,
Yes.
Absolutely. I forget who used to say it's better felt than telt. I love that. The thing that you can adequately describe is probably not big enough.
Mm.
and we're describing it based on something we believe, which is limited at best. And if we're not careful, then we make up something, then believe what we made up, and then go preach it on the mountain like it's so, instead of like we're here as discoverers, to stay open at the top, to see. I wouldn't start to define something that is infinite.
Right. Yes.
You can't put it into a box because it is the box. You used a phrase just now from religious science, open at the top. Ernest Holmes said that. Of course, he was also ordained as a divine science minister. Now, you hold ordinations in both divine science and religious science. Which came first, and what made you decide that you would like to go after a second ordination in another affiliated organization?
Well, religious science was first, and that was 25 years ago. And I didn't go after an ordination, just so you know, I'm a student. And if you study enough and keep at it, you'll get an ordination, whether you're not careful. Then I'm committed to uniting the New Thought communities. And I've been working at this for 25 years. So when I looked around, and I actually applied and considered getting Unity's ordination too, and it was a no. It was a no for me, and they agreed that I was not a match there 25 years ago for them, and I went on about my business. So even though the ordination is in the earliest training was in religious science, Unity is where I've served primarily for 25 years, even without the Unity ordination. And I started asking questions about what would we open conversations several years ago to look at our paths being reciprocal. So once we have gotten these trainings in there and required curriculum and the required courses and all that completed, to make them reciprocal across these New Thought lines, and that's when I opened up to a divine science ordination and got into the roots then of what divine science was about, which I had a general understanding about, and wanted to give any uplift I could in whatever reach I have to divine science as a path also. So it's like use to expand. I did it to expand any possibility for uniting New Thought communities and the New Thought teachings. And I've asked questions since the beginning of my days and about the differences in us. And the primary only answer I've ever had is semantics as the difference of it. And that's how I experienced it too. I just didn't know. So that was first, that was second. And I got these degrees from Emerson too. And ordination comes with that. And I never intended to get that either. I just keep studying. And I'm still a student. I stay enrolled in something all the time.
I love that. And all of us have multiple credentials. All of us, divine science was the second one. And that's true beyond. Emmett Fox tried Unity first, and somehow that didn't work out, and Nona Brooks just snatched him right up. Rocco Errico has the divine science ordination, and so did Roy Eugene Davis. And so yeah, we seem to be the also place, and I love that. I love that, you know, that no matter where you have, people seem to think we also have something to offer, and we don't mind that you've done other things. Just bring that to your divine science world. And so that seems to be one of our strengths, I think, is that we recognize the unity of you know, there's really just one truth, and we're all just seeking it and expressing it the best we can. And so I just find that interesting that for everyone in this moment on this panel, that is the truth. That's how we've all done it. My question for you, though, really isn't about although your answer will probably be metaphysical. My question isn't particularly metaphysical. I think of you as sort of a coach or a mentor, a leadership guru, sort of, and we need that right now. Churches of all denominations in decline, seminaries of all denominations just closing up shop, politics just more and more aggravating and anxiety producing, the economy always uncertain, and whatever. Even people's personal liberties, they feel like, are under attack. And here we are with our bright light and our truth and our love and our God is everywhere. And it's important that connects to people, but how are we going to connect that effectively with people who are really just being deluged with fear and anxiety? And how do we avoid it when our centers, you know, are affected? Our centers are the people that make them up, and you know, the people are, we're trying to help them stay above water, but also they bring the experiences they're having, and their experience is often fearful. It's just a big thing to navigate, and you're a big teacher, so help.
Well, you go first. I don't know. You know, I don't know how we're going to do this. I'm so full of hope about it, though. And somebody told me this morning, like, well, you know, hope is what you have when you don't actually believe it'll happen. And I said, well, no, that's not what I mean by hope. That I'm alive in hope. I wouldn't even be here on this call today. And I don't think y'all would be doing what you're doing, even with the dissolution, even with the fragmentation, even with the whatever's happening, the shrinking of this. That those of us that are called the way we're called and committed the way we are, it's like we're going to hang in there like a hair in a biscuit and say we don't know yet what we're going to do or what we're going to become, but we're absolutely going to bring all to it that we can. And I think it's critical that we're on the cusp of something here, that New Thought stands at a powerful threshold today, similar to where I think it stood in the 19th century, like seeds of healing, metaphysical wisdom, spiritual empowerment. It's been a little too quiet. I think it's been a little too quiet to suit me. We are called the best kept secret around and all that. And we've still profoundly influenced everything we see today. We have influenced through our New Thought teachings, spirituality, coaching, wellness, health, psychology, all matters of things. And that we, like these other sacred traditions you referred to, Durrell, we've got to either evolve or stay stagnant in this. And that New Thought is not a fixed doctrine and not a fixed dogma of some sort. It is living, it's breathing, it's alive in something. And if we continue to grow in our awareness and to live the truths that we know, to actually embody these, as you see, it's got to be felt, it's got to be demonstrated, not just platitudes and quotes and things like that, to express this, that there is ever-ending ways this can be done. And I believe it's going to require us to reclaim a depth over these platitudes, that we've got to move from some cliches to contemplation and cliches to application. And we've got to do something that is emotionally honest, that absolutely doesn't disregard and diminish and depress and suppress and deny what's going on in the world, pain, and to stay spiritually robust and not to be afraid of the mystery of this or the paradox that we live in, and do what we can do independently and together like this. Together we can do things that none of us can do alone in our organizations or as people. And it's to be determined, what the next spiritual center is going to look like. That it's clear that the old one is not only in demise but dying. That old way, and we're here at the cusp of something that there will be a new way formed, and we can be part of it, I believe, and we are part of it, and maybe less formally than some, and that we've as we continue to listen and to lift up diverse voices, cultural, racial, logical, generational diversity, then we have met the needs of some of the humans out there. And this new thought can be one, I think, a place where everyone finds themselves at home in creation, in the divine, in something, that we have a place for that, for people to find a home. And that's the word I've heard the most in 25 years. When people found a center like some of ours, well, I felt like I'd come home. I felt like I'd come home to myself. That's the most common answer over the 25 years I've been serving.
You started with hope, and that, and thank you for that, because we are sometimes we know what we know, and we have all the truth, and we have all the answers, and so hope implies doubt and whatever. But it is also, and I think everyone, if they'll just be honest for a second, they know, or they'll remember, or they've experienced that when you felt a thing, it's when you experienced it. It's not when it was in your head, not when you could recite all the principles and work it out with, like a mathematical equation. It's when you felt it that it happened. And hope is a feeling. And so that's what I love about that, is that, like, don't talk yourself out of hope. Hope is a feeling, and feelings are what attract. Feelings are what manifest. And so I love that. I think sometimes we sacrifice our hope because we think it makes us look like we don't know enough, or we're not, sincere enough. And I think, oh no, without hope, hope is the feeling, and that feeling can lead to other feelings, joy, gratitude. But if you don't have hope, I don't think you're going to get to those other ones.
Yes, and what I thought of was that's one of the candles of Advent. And that's the beginning, the expectation of a new birth, a new beginning. And hope is really, really, really vital. And as you mentioned, Bishop Durrell, that it's the feeling. And that reminds me of some of the writings that touch me by Goddard Neville. He talks about it's the feeling that creates the creation. And we have to have that as well as with hope and a welcoming. Help people feel at home with their spirituality. And I think that comes from each of us feeling at home with our own spirituality. And at the same time, be willing to be open and receptive to new insights, a deeper expression, dimension of what that means. And it really can't be described in words as much as I attempted to do that.
I feel like, Bishop Durrell, I didn't mean to bypass that question you had about leadership, because I think it's critical. And that I think in this, if we're going to raise a new generation of leaders, that it's got to be an embodied teacher. It cannot be somebody who preaches and teaches principles and do not live by them. So we got to have authentic leaders who don't just teach principles, but live them humbly live the principles, and to understand it's a direction that we go in, not a destination. We don't just arrive there somewhere. And leaders then who admit we don't have all the answers, and that we're here still as students ourselves, and that whoever can embody accountability, action, inspired service, compassion, honesty, authenticity, then the future of our new thought, I believe, lies not in personalities then, but in how we practice and how we actually lead, and not to be a leader conceptually as a leader, but a leader in the way we are.
And I think that's important too, because we are not a teaching that proselytizes. We don't go out looking for converts. We live our lives, and if somebody sees what we have, it's like being in a 12-step program. If you see what you like, then come ask me about it, and I can tell you about it. But we don't go out looking for people. So to live that, like you were saying, it's important. It's very
Well,
important.
absolutely. It's going to require us, I think, too, Jeff, to have the courage to let go of some of our outdated ways and metaphors, even some of our outdated frameworks for what we did. Whatever got us to here is not totally going to be what it takes to get us into the next iteration of ourselves. And it's also, I think, it's imperative not to look away. That we are known. Some of the myths about us is that we look away from things, and that we look away from grief or racial injustice or spiritual burnout or something. And it's not true for me. And that these are these are not distractions. This is a part of our human expressions here. And this is so it's a fertile ground for spiritual work. So they're not to be looked away from, that they're to the very terrain of our spiritual maturity and our spiritual transformation. And some of the myths and some of the um, criticisms we've listened to over the years about what that are misunderstandings about us and our teachings is still in our we have responsibility and accountability
Mhm.
to straighten out some of those common misunderstandings of us and the criticisms that we're just a positive thinking bunch. It's like, yeah.
If I could follow up with that, how would you say to somebody, instead of saying, well, we don't look away from these negatives in life, but we can see beyond them? How can we make that more of our message to people, that we can see where you're hurting, we can see some of the things that you're going through, but we can also see beyond that to what's next, what's, a way past what you're going through now.
Well, I wouldn't claim to see what's next myself, but I would absolutely say wherever you are in this human journey, that there is a greater truth of you,
Mhm.
that regardless of what you're experiencing here, so this is not a blind positivity. This is not passive blind positivity, but it is about aligning with the truth. It doesn't ignore pain, it doesn't ignore suffering, the human condition, and says there's still a place for you. I can still be with you in that pain, and I'm going to hold a higher reality, a higher truth for you, even while you're suffering, that there's something greater that's also true for you. So it's then how to be it with both, how to allow for both, and not to suppress and depress and deny that that pain is there, or that the grief is there, and that the loss is not real and things like that.
Yeah, that really annoys me when people try to take away your pain, when that pain is actually part of the healing process. Like you take away my pain, you're also taking away my healing. There were two religious scientists that honestly saved my life. I didn't know about divine science yet, but I didn't know about unity and religious science and Course in Miracles, Reiki and whatever. So I called a religious science minister when I tested HIV positive. I've been HIV positive since 1990, never a day in the hospital. And so when I called, thank God I called her, because she was like grandmotherly and sweet, and she wore wigs, a lot of makeup, rings on every finger. You just wanted to she was just so cuddly and adorable. So I'm calling her, I'm thinking, this sweet, cuddly, adorable grandma that's going to cry with me and feel sorry for me, and I'm going to wallow in that and get a big, soft, cushy hug. And when I told her the story about this test, and her immediate response was, "Oh, honey, that's just information." I was so put out. I'm like, wait. But honestly, but I trusted her. And so it took away so much fear. I think if I had not been able to manage the fear, I wouldn't be here telling you the story. And she just wouldn't let me, as she would say, she helped me go to peace instead of to pieces.
Mhm.
And so that was one. But so now, but I'm mistaken. Okay, I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to heal myself. I'm a metaphysician. And numbers are going down and down and down. And I finally said, well, if they reach a certain point, I'll think about medicine. And they keep going down. And now I'm depressed. I'm like, I failed, and I better try to get on this. And hopefully I'm not too late. And I'm going to die anyway or whatever. And I said this to an HIV positive religious science minister, and he said he'd had the exact same experience. He said, I just was standing on these affirmations and these principles and demanding that it happen my way. And I just got sicker and sicker and sicker. And he said, but then I realized God is all there is. God's in the medicine. Why won't I take the medicine? And so I started taking it and immediately got healthy. And so I started taking medicine and immediately the numbers shot up, and I'm 35 years, not a day in the hospital. So what you're saying about not only hope, but leading authentically, leading from your lived experience.
Mhm.
He could have just said, quoted somebody and said, do what they say. But no, he said, I've been there and I made this mistake and I tried this thing and this is what worked for me. And those things actually saved my life. And so that's sort of authentic from your lived experience, whether it was pretty or not. That's what can change and even save lives.
Absolutely. And whoever else gave you the just get to peace advice, which was helpful at the time, clearly helpful, does not have the same experience you've had. And we don't know that whoever she was didn't have a trip around the mulberry bush on down her path too. Because it's one thing to sit here and say, I'm not going to take medicine, I'm not going to do this or that until we're standing there at the threshold of it. It's a very, very different story for some. So we don't know how it's going to unfold. But I think it's critical that we've been accused of disregarding medicine and scientific advances and other things. And it's like our leaders, new thought leaders must embrace, as you've defined here, honey, a both and thinking. That it's both and. Do your practice, speak your affirmation, speak the truth as you know it, and include science and medicine. And it's science and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One or the other.
My healing line is say a prayer and take a pill. If one doesn't work, the other will. And that's what I'm a big fan of medicine.
Well, somebody helped me with this years ago because I was a goner. It's a wonder anybody would have sat by me way back then. I mean, it's still marginal today, but they're like, oh my God, I sat with her last month. You sit by her because she's full of questions. But he said, let me get this straight. If you've got a splinter in your foot, you're just going to leave it?
Hmm.
You'll just leave a splinter in your foot? And I said, well, no. And he said, well, that's what you're saying. Like the splinter, just deny that the splinter's there. Deny the splinter has power. And then I said, well, we'll pray it. We're going to pray. And he said, yeah, you're going to pray a splinter out of your foot? It's like, snap out of it, girl. Like, wake up. And it's like somebody that would have enough care for me to not let me get any further in a rabbit hole of ridiculousness. But to say, like, yeah, if I've got a splinter, I'm going to go ahead and pull that thing out. And I'm going to pray. I'll pray some too.
Right.
And, yeah. And it may take a pill.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is all very important stuff, very important advice. You know what else is important? A commercial break. And so this is Divine Science Everywhere on the New Thought Media Network. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back, everybody. I'm going to, if you started at 4 or 2 or 3, wherever you are in the country, watching us live, you didn't see us live because we weren't, it didn't happen. We were talking, we were having a good time, but you didn't get to be part of it. And so we actually started about 15 minutes late. So I just want to catch everybody up with what we said that you didn't know about. So our fearless leader here is Reverend Joyful Fletcher. She is the Divine Science Ministers Association president. The other sort of co-founder, co-creator, co-thinker of this program, Reverend Jeff Radcliffe. He has Giatti Ministries. I believe that is God is all there is. Is that what Giatti is? What a divine science kind of name. And he's on every board, every divine science and new thought board there is. And I am Durrell Watkins. I am the senior minister of Sunshine Cathedral, and I am the Divine Science Federation president. And our guest today is the inimitable, the luminescent Reverend Dr. Martha Cree. And she, of course, when she started talking and teaching, you were with us. So you haven't missed any of her. See how the universe works. And just one more thing, I want to remind you that the Divine Science Federation and Minister Associations together are having a retreat in November 2nd through 6th. It is a cruise to the Bahamas. It's 5 days, 4 nights. It's going to be great fun, and you can learn about it and sign up for it at divinesciencefederation.org. divinesciencefederation.org. It's only $299, and there are even payment plans. No reason in the world not to jump on this. So that's what you missed. We took longer to do all that, but now you're all caught up, and we're back to our amazing guest, Reverend Dr. Martha Creek. Now somebody ask her something.
All ears, remember, I've got questions, not answers, y'all.
Right.
Well, so, Martha, how can we learn to live in right relationship with our source, with ourselves, with each other, especially when conflict or pain is present? How would you answer that?
Well, there's a million answers to it, Joy. Like there's no answer to that. I can tell you for me that I've got to take deep breaths. I've got to observe what part of me got triggered that's upsetting me, what I've interpreted this meaning to be, and to see that I've got this backwards, that this is a misunderstanding. I've got to hold accountability to my own spirit, not to let this go any worse. I've got to like put something in there to interrupt the patterning of that little part of my brain that gets triggered, that goes to fight, flight, or freeze, or fawn, or feed, or whatever else the other 7 else may be. And I've got to pause, presence myself,
Yes.
and then proceed, and whatever the proceed is. And this applies to before I fire off that email, or before I answer the phone, or before I let my eyes roll twice over, to get some presence to myself. And it's my biggest devotion, is to live in this, and it can't be done all the time. I'm not always in presence, and I've got ways of observing when I leave presence how to get back quicker, so I don't go as far and I don't stay gone as long. And this happens over time, and with practice, it just gets easier. And our brain scientifically is proven that we can actually rewire the brain, so our knee-jerk reactions are not as apt to run the show for us, and our hurt places and our wounded places are not as likely to take over to the degree that we practice this. And that's my lived experience.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I'm practicing the realization that there are certain buttons that others can push. And at the same time, I need to remember that they didn't install those buttons there. They are the messenger for me to, as you said, the spiritual practice, take a breath. And I've noticed myself too over the years that I don't stay gone as long, maybe not react as quickly. And I'm grateful for that. To remember.
That. It's as good as it gets, as far as I know, honey, that it's like using spiritual truths.
Yes.
To instead of avoiding dealing with these things, suppressing, depressing, disowning, denying, that we use these as an emphasis on how to embody the truth of us, our wholeness, so that we have then the shadow has a chance to integrate, and we have a chance then to feel less and less vulnerable to their opinions, to their tones of voice, to their thoughts of us. And there's no thought you can have about me that I've not already had about me. So I'm not scared of that much.
I like that.
I do like that. I want you to say something about happiness. You seem to be content and happy and at peace, and I think that's what we may say. We want $1 zillion, or we want to live to be 106, or we want a perfect lover. What we're really saying is we want to be happy, and we think those things will make us happy. And you seem to have it. And I think most of us, that's what we're looking for. And that's what we're trying to help other people find. Of course, you can't lead where you won't go. You can't teach what you don't know. So, I mean, we have to have it to give it. But then there's also sort of a pushback saying, that's when the pushback's against new thought. Well, you just want to feel good. It's just all fluffy and warm fuzzy, and there's no substance to it or whatever. And I don't think that. I think that happiness is the point, and from happiness, good things. And one of my favorite prayers is a Buddhist prayer that says, "May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease, and may we be happy." And I just think that's that if you have that contentment, that peace, not that you love everything that happens, not that you never get annoyed or aggravated or anxious, but that you don't stay there, and that your default setting is back to peace and contentment. And but other people have told me I'm wrong about this. You got a chance to join that team, or to help us understand how happiness is a good thing. And either way, whatever side of that you're on, we want to hear from you.
Well, I don't see it as either good or bad. That's just it. And I've done my best over these all my life, but professionally, to take down this barrier, this middle ground of good and bad, versus happiness is a part of our wholeness. And sadness and grief and loss and shame and guilt are part of it too. And the less I resist those shame and guilt and irritations, frustrations, the happier I am. It's the damnedest thing. It's like, it's my resisting of that. Am I judging it and calling it bad and calling those parts of me bad is what still is a thief of joy, is a thief of happiness. And the more I've integrated that, the more I accept that all the humanness is a part of my divineness also, then I'm not in resistance and at war with sadness. If a feeling of sadness arose, it's like it's welcome. It's like it's normal to have that kind of response to a loss, that kind of response to a disappointment. And if it's given space, if I can swing wide the door and give it some space, then it rises and passes. So then I'm actually more content. I look happier because I've not got all that baggage from those suppressed and depressed and disowned emotions in there. And trust me, I've carried it around for years. Because I was in a state of denial that would kill most people. Like if I can pretend it away, and stoic and spine of steel and whatever else that started for most of us in our childhoods when there wasn't a place for emotion. Like no emotions welcome here. And certainly not sadness, and no wanting, and I'll give you something to cry about or whatever else.
Yes.
We had to figure out a way to, like, okay, that better be extra somewhere. I better get a big Pandora's box because I got quite a bit to go in there.
I don't know how it was in the Midwest, but we have 3 Southerners on this show. I'm from Arkansas, and we have 2 people in Tennessee and Kentucky and all that. And yeah, we got I'll snatch you up in the supermarket, if you're misbehaving, or I'll give you something to cry about, or not behaving properly in church, wait till we get home. Or there was always control and consequences and fear and threat, and it was cultural. I mean, that's the way they grew up. Nobody was trying to be mean. They thought they were doing good, in fact. But it is amazing how much of that we then, because that was our first experiences, how much of that we then project onto God. And then we spend our whole life being, afraid that we're in trouble with God or whatever. And we don't need to be afraid of God. We're just remembering being afraid of people who were charged when we didn't know anything.
Well, and for kids, it's like that was God to us, because it's like we're like dependent on them. I mean, our very life came from them. And that little young naive understanding of it, it's like I came from them. It's like, and I'm dependent on them too, by the way. Talk about very, very scary,
and boys acted a certain way, and girls acted a certain way, and you treated people of certain ages certain ways. And it was just all very, very regimented. And the worst insult, is to be lazy. I used to, when I was a teenager, I would stop at the mailbox. The mailbox was way down the driveway, and I would stop at it to get the mail and then drive the rest of the way. My grandmother was so furious and embarrassed. She's like, people are going to think you're lazy. Like, I should go all the way parked and walk back to them. I'm like, it's just here. I don't understand. But that was the worst thing. Like, the neighbors are going to think you're lazy. And I'm like, we live in the country. We don't have a neighbor for half a mile. Who's gonna notice?
Well,
The worst thing is to be lazy.
This confirms that we're brothers from another mother. Because in my household, the worst thing anybody could be was lazy, which now I can pin on the reason I'm a workaholic now.
Yes.
And so right behind lazy was liars. Lazy and liars are nothing but lazy. They're nothing but a liar. So that's in our psyche, honey. It's in our bones and blood. So it's got to be sorted out, as this is a part of what some things we've got to redo, undo,
Yes.
get a
Yes.
new framework around.
Yes. Yes.
And something that you said, and we're running out of time, so I'll make this real quick. Something you said struck a chord with me when you were talking about being content. Reminded me of a story I'd read about a Zen master, a lady by the name of Sono, who taught one little simple mantra. She said whenever anybody came to her for healing, for whatever, she wanted them to do the affirmation, "Thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever." No matter what the situation was, that was the affirmation that you used. And there were a lot of people that didn't get it, who tried to argue with her, say, "Oh, this is going to work." Or some people heard that and they just didn't think it would work for them. And so they just kind of fluffed it off. But those people who actually used the affirmation, "Thank you for everything. I have no complaint whatsoever," were the ones who found peace and healing. And that's what I got listening to you talk about being content.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you. I love that. This has just been a wonderful time together, and time flew.
Flown by.
It definitely did. And we have some exciting guests that are coming up. I've got Reverend Dr. Raymond Anderson will be with us May 30th, and Reverend Tanae Gosamaya Mina will be with us, and she's third generation divine science, and we have lots of other exciting things coming up. And so thank you today, Reverend Dr. Martha Creek. It's been wonderful to share this space with you. I appreciate that. And we'd like to thank the New Thought Media Network, and we thank all of you for joining us. So just remember that divine science everywhere means that good is in all, through all, and as all. So until next time, we are science.
Divine science everywhere.
Blessing.
Everywhere, baby.
Thank you.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.